Seven.
Okay, great. All right, let's call the Italian Village Commission meeting to order. Whatever day it is today, what is it? 12th?
It's the 12th.
All right, April 12th, there it is, April 12th, 2022, 4 p.m. Our next business meeting will be Tuesday, April 22nd, 2022 at 12 p.m. here at 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 204. Next hearing will be Tuesday, May 10th, 2022, also at 4 p.m., also here at 111 North Front Street. So I will now swear in the staff. Will you state your name for the record, please?
Jacqueline Lehman, Assistant Historic Preservation Officer.
And you promise to tell your truth, the best of your ability, your testimony this afternoon.
I do.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. We'll go through and call the roll on the commissioners. We'll start at the end.
H. Schmeling,
Ben Goodman.
Shannon Fergus,
And Jason Sudi. Great. Let's see, what else do we have today? We don't have any public forums?
No public forum.
Let's get a motion for approval of, let's do the staff, or let's do the minutes first. Can I have a motion for approval of the March 8th minutes?
so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? And abstention?
Recuse.
Okay, so passes 3-1 with one abstention. And staff approvals. Let's see. Starts on page 3. Can I have a motion for approval of staff? Oh, no, I'm sorry, it doesn't. Starts on page 5. There we go. Motion for approval of staff approvals. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Now we'll go through for abstentions, 705 Civitas, actually a whole bunch of things. Bunch of Civitas and Dickinson and all that. Any abstentions on that one? Okay, the Keats Townhouse, also in Jeffrey. 158 East 2nd. 648, 662 Kerr. 673 Kerr. No abstentions? Okay, no abstentions. Anything else, staff, before we get into the first application today?
No, I think we're ready to right now.
Okay, sounds great. First one is IB 220204, which is 1086, 1088 North High Street. Okay. Raise your right hand when you get settled there and state your name for the record.
John Ingwerson,
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this afternoon.
I do.
Okay, excellent. So staff, if you want to tell us what's going on.
This is continuing from the last. The application is proposing to install 2 HVAC split system condensing units on the roof, which would be in line with 2 existing units. So the single-story gable roof has limited areas of placement, and given the existing condition and the existing units, the proposed rear location and symmetrical orientation appears to be the most optimal location available for those new units. The proposed units match the existing units in size and appearance, and although visible from the alley of North Pearl Street, the units are consistent with the commercial use of the building, other events and HVAC equipment on the adjacent commercial buildings that border the alley and the alley location itself. At the March 29th business meeting, the commission noted the following. They asked to clarify the finish of the screening. Per applicant, the finish will be Sherwin-Williams cast iron. The commission asked to clarify if the screening will be around each unit and noted that they want to be sure the screening is low enough and asked if the screening could be shortened. And the applicant has submitted some updated renderings showing the shortened version of the screen. So the staff recommends approval of application ID 220204. As submitted with any clarifications to be submitted to staff. And that recommendation is based on that the application is generally consistent with the standards for alteration.
Okay, John.
Commissioner Cook isn't here, and he seems to be the one that was the most interested in it. But the last business meeting, he made the suggestion that we lower it 6 inches, which we've done, and I submitted the drawing. So if staff's agreeable and you guys don't have any questions, it's only $12,000 a month for the rent of the place. Well, it's somebody's eating that over a little hunk of metal on the roof. So if you could please approve this, I'd love it.
Yeah, let's go through, and just to clarify, are we screening all four, or just screening the new ones? What's this story here?
We'll agree to whatever you need to have agreed to get this thing's holding up the release of a building permit. We're putting 2 new units up. David seems to think that the alley is very important and that the building won't look right unless we do all 4. I imagine we'll commit to doing that if that's what it's going to take for approval. But
Okay.
I don't know that you have the legal right to actually say you've got to do the other 2 that exist and have been there for years.
I mean, if we're gonna have screen 2, it kind of seems like it doesn't make any sense to, it seems like you screen 1 or you screen none of them to me. Like your eyeball only looks every other one. So,
Again, you tell me what you'll approve and
Okay.
we'll go with it.
so let's go around the horn and see what everybody is. Shannon, what do you got on this one?
I think just screening all 4 to make it look uniform and
I support staff recommendations here, and I don't think it's a significant, the building. It's made reasonable steps to satisfy the commission.
Paige,
I have no other comments.
do you have anything on this one?
No.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, but trying to be more difficult, I just think that it doesn't really make sense to screen every other one. It's like either all or nothing to me, so.
Again,
So-
they're about $8,000 a piece. So the guy's going to take some hurt and that's what there is. So thank you.
Okay, so, Shannon, can you make a motion?
Yeah, move to well, did the application include screening all 4 or only screening 2?
So you
I think we should clarify in the motion if that's what the commission.
Okay. Move to approve application 01IV 2202-004 with the clarification that all 4 air conditioning units will be screened.
Do I have a second?
I'll second, making sure that I understand that all the other commissioners understand that that's an addition to the application.
That's correct. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Great. Thanks.
Okay, going on to the next one, ID 2204-004, which is 1112 North 4th Street. I'm going to abstain from this one.
Staff?
Who wants to the applicant in?
Oh, swear to tell the whole truth to the best of your ability?
Yes,
Oh, and state your name.
Kevin Likens.
Okay, this application is proposing to install a mural on the south elevation of the building for the submitted materials. The application submitted for action review was submitted prior to the March conceptual review. At the March 29th business meeting, the commission noted the following. The commission asked if the artwork is proposed to be painted, noting that the building has cut stone in mortar, as well as smooth surfaces resulting in an inconsistent appearance of painted. The commission noted that although this is a new building, they want to respect the stone material and design. The commission asked about using canvas instead of paint to avoid competing with the structure, perhaps like the advertising banner that is currently present on the building. In response to the business meeting feedback, the applicant has stated they are proceeding with proposing paints. So the following comments were taken from the conceptual approval at the March hearing. For this specific location, the conceptual comments were that a mural could be appropriate on the back elevator shaft, avoiding incorporating windows and architectural features. And the general comments for the multiple locations for the conceptual review were that painting would be preferred on previously painted surfaces or concrete block with no window or other architectural features in the proposed work area. So staff notes that murals should avoid covering or obscuring architectural elements such as windows, doors, trims, cornices, and other such features. Although this building is new construction, recommend any murals respect the design of the building. Staff recommends continuing the application IV 2204-004 to allow the applicant time to revise the application. The staff recommendation is based on the Untitled Village guidelines, which note that surfaces that have never been painted, such as lintels, sills, foundation materials, and brick surfaces should not be painted. And noted that murals are reviewed on an individual basis based on size, location, content, and appropriateness for the area in which they are located, as well as the standards for alteration, specifically number 12. So we're back to the commission.
All right. Can you tell us about it?
No, it's a unique opportunity. We've got a national, global company that reached out to a local artist and looking to do something in the Italian Village area. And, we're wanting to do something that's larger in size. And this is what he came up with. We have like an art group that we put together for the 5x4 SID, and we've identified, a bunch of locations. I know this, they've come and presented to you. This one, we're pulling out from that just because of the timeline. The hope is that, we could get something moving sooner than later, just to get the process going in the 4th Street corridor. It's a newly constructed building. We took comments from the very first time it went from you guys, and I think we made some adjustments. There's nothing on the windows or on the doors. It is a stair shaft, basic building materials. So we thought that it was a good place to put the mural. So I was hoping that you guys thought the same thing.
I think it's a good place for a mural. Frankly, don't know what I think about the show, but I do think it's a great place for the mural. Can you talk a little bit about the artist or the graphic designer, and why I see that there's some connection between the characters in the mural and with Italian Village cast and the work.
Yeah, so Adam Brule is the artist, fairly well-known artist, and he obviously caught the attention of people who own this game. So they reached out to him, liking his style of characters, knowing that I think pretty much all of his art incorporates that style of a character. That's what he's known for, and just to adjust it to the requirements of the game. Yeah, you'll see that all of his are fairly similar with that type of a character. Yeah.
I think it's fun. I'd have no further comment.
That you support it?
Yeah, I think the placement makes a lot of sense on the building. I think one of the comments though was that it's not placed over a consistent building material, and I'd just be curious if this is some of new materials that we're placing a mural on, if we could consider upkeep, I guess, for the mural, or if it is to not keep up as well as if it were to be painted on brick, there'd be some type of check-in or maintenance there.
So the people who are paying for the mural have committed to 5 years that they are going to maintain the mural. So they wanted that commitment just because the amount of money that they're spending on it. They would love to have it up longer, but it's hard for me as a property owner to just because who knows,
What happens after 5 years?
If it's well received, I would love to keep it. If it's something that's not, then we'd get a new mural on it would be the goal.
Does he talk about materials he's planning to use?
The type of paint.
Is it paint?
It is. It's paint.
Yeah, I think that private checking makes sense to me, and there's a maintenance plan. So yeah, I support them.
And for me, it's hard, because it's my building and somebody's painting on it. So, that's like, you don't do, the initial thought is, but I think that the corridor, well, us approaching it as an extension of High Street and getting the, whether it's a mural or a sculpture or something in this district, it's become pretty important. And I think it's a good draw for the neighborhood.
Yeah, definitely.
In short, I support. I think it's mural A, and we should be trying to be funky and allowing mural and art applications to thrive in the. I think that the stipulation about paint on brick is dogmatic in this case. We're talking about a mural, not just regular painting. It seems to me that you're making way for not painting this eyebrow feature in the lintels or water table foundation feature, correct?
Yes.
And adding relay is fun and local and important artist for the area, and I think it's all very good. So I support the application.
So the game creators asked him to make this?
Yes. Yeah, they're paying for everything. And it's cool. It's cool that I just get excited about how much attention Columbus is getting,
Yeah,
and that they care that, you know, what goes on in Columbus, and that they think it's that important of a market.
yeah, yeah.
I didn't want their name on it though. That was, you know, because I don't want it in advertising. I mean,
Right, right.
I think some people would know. To be honest with you, I wouldn't have known a year ago until my kids told me what the game was.
Now you're playing every week.
Right, yeah.
We'll say they're Italian village workers over there.
Right.
Exactly. Yes, there's the
So
brick
this is
mason.
exactly how it's settled. Okay, I also support the application. I think that because it's new building materials, I'm less concerned, about, you know, painting on historic brick. If this had been, if this had come with the application when we had approved the building, I'm sure we would have approved it then as well. So, anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make that motion to, number 2, right? Approve application IV 22-24-004 1112 North 4th Street to approve the mural application as submitted here today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you send Jason back in?
Yes.
$295 East Fifth? Yes. Jason is back in. We'll get you squared away.
So number 3, Ben? Get this one in. Okay. If you could raise your right hands and say your names for the record.
Julia Cordell.
Jean Cabral?
And you promise to tell the truth and best of your ability in your testimony this afternoon.
Yes.
Okay, great. So staff.
Okay, this application is in response to a code violation. Exterior alterations, a rear addition, and construction of a new garage were initially approved in January of 2020. Changes have been made from what was approved from that application, for the submitted materials. Staff has included, it looks like they've been submitted to the applicant just to make the comparison easier between drawings or photos. So at the March 29th business meeting, the commission noted the following. The commissioners noted that the historic details, including the oriel window in Fort Balustrade, will need to match what was present before the alterations. That the window configurations, meaning 1/1 or 2/2 configurations, will need to match what was approved. Garage windows should match what was approved to be consistent with the rest of the house. The commission noted that the window casing or detail is off, that the previous casing had header and proportions that the new casing should match. And that the rear window is off proportionally and will need to match the proportions of the elongated windows that are present throughout the rest of the home. The commissioners noted that the dormer is not historic and some changes maybe can be worked out. However, the current dormer does have the frame out front with detailing exposed and a pitch change. so the dormer will need to be revised. Some commissioners noted they were okay with the shadow box fence in the rear yard, but noted that the post tops looked higher than the boards and that the fence will need to be stained or painted. Some commissioners noted that the contemporary way the rear spindles for the back porch or the rear porch have been applied to the railing is not in keeping with the house style. The commission noted that the light fixtures proposed have been installed elsewhere in Italian Village and look okay. So staff notes that the work differing from the previous approval has been completed, including alterations of historic fabric or design, and recommends that the work match the original historic design and the 2020 approval, as well as that the historic door be repaired and reinstalled on the Italian Village lines, noting that existing original doors should be repaired and retained, and that transoms and sidelights must be retained in their original size and shape. The staff recommends continuing application ID 220400. The applicant time to revise the application. The staff recommendation is based on the standards for alterations, specifically numbers 2, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, and 12, and the standards for new construction, letters A, B, E, G, J, K, and M. The standards for site improvements, letter A, the Italian Village guidelines for doors that was already read, the Italian Village guidelines for windows, which note that the elements surrounding the windows, such as the sill, the lintel, and the cap, are expressive of the character of the building, and under no circumstances should elements surrounding the windows be removed or modified. These guidelines note that maintaining original window divisions, such as 2/2, 6/6, etc., is mandatory, but replacing any window sash. And then the guidelines for porches, which note that repair and it is appropriate to repair and preserve original porch materials, and to replace wood columns and trim where deteriorated with sections that duplicate the originals. The guidelines note that it's not appropriate to remove the porch or stoop or any original features such as spindles, brackets, balusters, decking, or stone steps. And then regarding fence and enclosures, the guidelines note that plain board and privacy fences should be vertical boards nailed side by side on parallel strainers, and that these fences are appropriate around rear yards only. And wood fences should be painted or stained with an opaque stain compatible with the structure's colors, and that wood fences should not be left to weather, as traditionally all exterior wood is painted. I'll turn it over to the commission.
Great. So how do you explain what's going on here? Start because
I kind of didn't know, to be honest with you. I've known Michelle for many, many years, decades, actually. I didn't know some of these things hadn't been done according to plan. But I did go over there and I looked at everything, and I also looked around the houses to the south and east and west of this that have been rehabbed, or brand new homes even too. And so there's a number of things that maybe we could keep that are already done, and other things will definitely change. And she had written a letter. Do you have a copy of that one? Dated.
So all the application materials are included, and then they're being shown on the screen right now. They're just as one big thing that no one is scrolling through.
The contractor really was inexperienced, and
I've sensed that too.
in almost any other, if it wasn't in a commission area, none of these things would, that's what contractors do, is they constantly change things. Michelle's a very nice person, and also didn't know that these were not in accordance with the plans. So we're here to just sit down and talk about the different items. I had written this, helped her write this letter, but the front door was vandalized. Somebody broke in. This is the door. It's really not a very great looking door to begin with. So there's a new front door. And so we'd like to be able to keep the new front door. It's very similar in style to what was there already. We would replace the railings at the front porch. All the wood on the front porch was pretty in bad shape. Go ahead and kick it.
No, it was pretty rotted out, everything like that. So like I said, I have spoke with 2 different contractors, Joel Robbie being one of them, and there's another group that I'm working with who seem to know what they're doing. So they're going to give me they came in and checked it out a couple weeks ago. They're going to give me some estimates on finishing the house correctly.
Gotcha.
One of the items was the trim didn't match the drawing I had done. However, Michelle's done a lot of research around the area. Some of the new homes and the rehab homes have trim around windows like what was installed in my house. So I didn't know if you wanted to show them some of those pictures.
Yes, I just want to say quickly, new homes have no bearing whatsoever on this. It's totally separate. Let's get into
This is
that.
one of the original homes down there that I took a picture. Okay. Very simplistic in style, which is
Is that a good comment?
Those are fine.
We'll get into all
Yeah,
that though.
okay.
So
But-
keep going.
I guess some of the things that I suggested was to restore up the rake's office, replace, and put the proper windows in the 2 windows in the garage like the plans originally showed. And then they'll remove some of the siding to show more of the foundation in the back of the house. Replace the small window in the upper gable of the front of the house to match the drawings. And this was just didn't know if it was part of your, what you approved, but she'd like to use square pavers, the walkway from the house to the garage instead of brick. So that was that. You already, I guess, said okay to the light fixtures on the outside with what she had selected. There was something in there about discrepancies to the foundation dimensions, and I didn't know what that was.
The amount of exposure.
Is that what it was?
So is that basically just mean removing part of the siding,
Okay.
so to
Is
speak?
that right, Steph?
Well, we're gonna rework the dormer to match the drawing.
Right.
Okay. Let's see, the light fixtures, that's okay.
Why don't we just go through each of these? 'Cause
Okay.
there's a lot in a row.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're gonna have a number of questions. So
Okay.
just to clarify real quickly, first of all, it's a shame that your contractor just did a bunch of crazy stuff.
Yes.
because Almost none of this was saving you any money at the time. You just did it wrong and now you have to fix it. So
I agree.
it sucks. So just, we sympathize with that. But man, this guy really, like, he did a lot of things wrong. Like, kind of like threw the drawings out the window and just like went total renegade. So, it's,
Which unfortunately is like a lot of contractors.
yeah.
You know.
Fortunately though, not so many here anymore because they know that they have to go through this process. So, yeah, we're sympathetic to that. That being said, I think what we want to do is go through each of these things to understand sort of the most important things for each commissioner. The big, before we go do that, just to frame this in the big context, I completely understand there's a lot of new builds that have a whole bunch of different things. We have to look at these totally separately. That's kind of our charge, for Historic Preservation Commission. So we have to maintain the historic integrity of the overall sense of the way that the neighborhood works, which allows us a lot more flexibility with new builds. But we have to maintain the historical integrity of each house
Right.
specifically.
Right.
And that's why, while their new builds have all kinds of things, it just, when you have a historic house, it just comes with an extra
No,
burden.
I
Just most
understand.
of this. So, that being said, I think some of these things, may or may not evoke stronger emotions in us, whereas we've reviewed these over the years, there have been some things that have become clear to us that are more problematic in maintaining the historic integrity. So we'll just go through and see where kind of the pain points are for everybody and go from there if that's okay. That's okay with you. So staff, can you kind of walk us through each of the things and then we'll just have a discussion about that to see where we stand and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the first one, item that I have just in this document, was that the historic trim was covered over. The paint colors differ, I think, the paint colors don't, make much heartbreak. It's more that the historic trim is covered.
So the historic.
This is for the royal window at the front facade.
Oh, yeah. So,
So
yeah.
there's like a little drawing, cut out. And there's larger drawings too for better context. This is just to make it easier to spot, the areas that have been changed.
So just, let's see, I'm just trying to see the order. I was just trying to go through one of these lists in order of all these things.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess I was looking at her letter.
Yeah, would you mind if we just went through in order of the letter, just
Yeah.
to make it's a little bit easier for us to get our brains around. So the front door, where are we stand on that, Steph?
Okay, so I just had a question, because the front door, I see like there maybe has been, attempted break-in or something, but it looks like it could be repairable. And so our staff recommendation, following the Untitled Village guidelines and the standards of alteration, we want to see it repaired and reinstalled if it's, it looks like it could be a historic door.
I guess I'd be curious about that a little more. I believe it looks generally in keeping,
Pictures
so-
here, you guys want these as well?
Yeah, that'd be fine. So let's go around to that.
I just don't feel for safety.
I think the door is potentially, it's really thin. The wood is broken in multiple places around the entire thing. if it were in the back, I could see keeping it, but I think, I mean, I kind of agree that for safety purposes, I understand, not putting it back. I don't know how, I don't know, because what I'm looking at is on this, is right here, you know, is on the other side. That, I mean, and it's so, like, it just looks like it would be torn right off no matter inch it on. But, that's all I feel about the door.
Pass it down. What are your thoughts on the door?
Is this a fiberglass door?
The new one is fiberglass?
So, sorry, I
The new, is the new door fiberglass or wood?
believe it's wood.
And the new door is, it looks like the glazing, the glass part has a concealed dividing set of dividers.
What, I'm sorry, can you point that out to me?
I mean, I guess my thinking is that if this came off of a showroom floor at Lowe's or Menards or something, then it's very possibly a fiberglass door, and it's the window itself has inappropriate kinds of the dividers. It's not a sort of a historic way of dividing glass. And that the way that the glass is installed into the door feels much different than a historic door. So I cannot support the keeping the new door without knowing some of those details.
Okay.
It's my personal opinion that this door is restorable, but I'm also open to replacing it with an appropriate pre-approved door for this type of house. And so that may be that that this door that you have installed, while it is keeping the place secure at the moment, is not appropriate for the final.
Are there places that you can actually buy historical
You
doors?
can consult with staff, see a whole list of doors.
Okay,
It would just need to match kind of like those examples of the Italian village guidelines.
I
We
see,
don't
okay.
have a specific like contractor or anything to recommend. It would just need to match with those simple styles, and typically front doors should be wood.
There's what is it called? Where is it that you go and buy like?
Architectural style.
Yes.
Well, that too.
Okay.
You could also buy a new door that was historic.
Yes, we just want to avoid any like ornate or historicizing, something that is old, kind of like a different style that you don't want to put that on the current house that makes it match the styles.
These are fairly simple doors, so it's not like we're asking for an expensive type of historic door if you went that direction. The other thing we kind of glossed over here is the transom. And it's just hard to tell from this image, and I have not been on site to discover if it's appropriate kind of recessed glazing transom. It should basically be in plane with the glass below. The glass in the transom should be in plane with the glass of the door.
So Paige, your thoughts, door transom?
Yeah, I'm on the same lines that the new door should match the kind of pre-approved doors and the guidelines, but I am okay with not reusing the original door. And then the transom, I guess, do we have any clarifications on this question?
The staff, do you know how that is functioning right now?
From the photos we have, it looks a lot lighter than the storage transom, but I think it maybe will be helpful if we have more photos perhaps for the commission to be able to view the transom. Or if, a site visit, or just in general for this type of helpful, we could arrange that as well.
Okay.
It's amenable to the applicant.
See that page?
For the door?
Yes. Okay.
I have nothing to add. I agree with all the comments that Commissioner Goodman stated with regard to either repairing or replacing with a good replication.
thank you.
Okay, so next on the list. What is the next on the list? Oh, the railings. Okay. And this is I guess these are railings all around the whole building, right?
Yeah, do we want to start with the front?
Let's start with the front.
So staff, were there no railings to begin with?
So if we look down at that lower picture that's being shown on the screen, there's like a solid balustrade or bar. And that's what was approved to go back to, have new ones match that historic setup. And so what is there now is the photo that's on the right, which has more sense, a different type of.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern is that, and goes for these across the board, is that that's just a very atypical historic railing type or balustrade type. And basically it's, for lack of a better term, like the typical sort of backyard deck that you would see. That's sort of very much the way that that's constructed. And it just doesn't match really any historical characteristics. So
I think they followed the house next door, which has the same.
yeah, they must have been
Yeah.
in a non,
So,
the problem is that there are a bunch of things that happened a long time ago that weren't good. And so the worst thing a contractor can do, just so you get another when you get another one,
yes.
don't look at what's next door unless you know that that is something that is approved and more recently constructed, because just because it's been updated, it could have been done many years ago before that was reviewed. So there's a whole bunch of crazy anomalies.
So would you just prefer I take that down? Is that just
I
keep it
think
with
that
the original?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the staff's recommendation. Is that correct?
Yeah, just to match those, the initial drawings. I think those drawings were, the point of them was to match what the original balustrade or that porch, that solid balustrade would have looked like.
Should I put the solid one back up?
That solid's in the back against, that's actually the wall below the window. There was only a little solid one to the left of the left post, the left red post. There was just a tiny bit right there. The rest was all open.
Yeah, it was in the proposal, from the 2020 proposal, was that to add additional solid balustrade, or was there any plan to add additional railing?
It was on the original construction drawings.
Because the original construction drawings that we have approved is the one that is shown in the left corner.
Yeah, I'm just not seeing, I don't think there were any, I'm trying to see if there are any railings proposed in that drawing at all.
Yeah, because that looks like the back.
Let me see. I think that was the siding that was behind, because it
Right.
was
Yeah.
vertical. The original was vertical underneath the windows on the wall itself. I didn't propose any railings for around the porch.
Yeah, I mean, it's not atypical for that detail with that single bar to be there. If you wanted to have something, I think you could add those back in. I'm okay with it not having it too. That's the commission, that's what the architects tell us what's going on. Brooke, what do you think?
I actually wonder if that single rail on the original drawing is actually the original balustrade. But that said, so I do, so, and I can understand why a railing around the front porch would feel a little more comfortable, feel a little cozier. It's the style of the balustrade that I think is a little, it's off. It's, there isn't anything historic about it. And I guess I wonder if there might be some older photographs than what this might be that would show maybe what if there was.
Do you think there might have been spindles?
I think so,
Yeah.
because it just, it's the upper part of the porch is so decorative and then it just drops off. It seems a little odd to me.
That makes sense. Yeah. Paige, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, for the front porch, I would be okay with just removing that new railing that was added. Would be okay with that direction, would also be okay with, and what Brooke was hinting at, a reapproved railing that is common in this area, and for this type of historic home that's in the guidelines. But then, as far as kind of what we've hinted at before, that specific railing that it happens elsewhere in the home too, just wouldn't have been approved previously and is doesn't hold up to the guidelines. So.
Ben, you have any
Yep,
additional?
the quickest path here is just to remove them.
Okay.
I'm in,
Think so,
get
yeah.
to approval. I'm also going to point out that the base of each post was supposed to have a piece of base finish material meeting the porch. So I'm speaking about these elements right here. And if you want a railing around this porch in the future, that's just a future application, but you want to get through this right now.
Right.
Anything else on that either? Any other questions on the rail stuff? No. You want to talk about the rear rails or stick on the front, staff?
Go and jump ahead to the rear rails if you want to keep just the same subject again.
Yep, sounds good. So then that one's down a little further right. Okay. Staff, your recommendation is obviously the upper story is going to need something. So that's just a replacement with an appropriate, historically appropriate rail. Is that the recommendation?
It's also.
Or it's just something consistent with the style. I think another commissioner had kind of put it even more eloquently at the business meeting, that the current style, this is a modern rear, but the current one looks, as you said, Jason, more like a deck style. And so something more consistent. Like the poster, not like out on the railings, and so they're more in like the drawings.
So, yeah, more historic style for those. I think that's really the gist of it. I'll let go through. Paige, you have other comments on that?
Yeah, I think that, yeah, I don't think that this, again, railing probably would have been, it wouldn't have been approved, so then something that is approved in historic guidelines, and also make sure you pay attention to, I guess, how it's being connected. At the base there, you can see the long extension of the posts of the fence. That is not, I guess, in line with the Italian Village guidelines as well.
Do you want to talk about that fascia while we're on that image?
Yeah, I can't honestly really tell what's happening there at the bottom or at the top as far as like trim pieces. It just looks like siding. So yeah, it looks maybe unfinished, or I'm sure if there was more, if that's still being worked on.
Yes, there's gonna be, it's definitely still gonna be.
Okay. Yeah, but that would be of note as well, that that isn't matching the trims either.
Brooke, do you have comments on either of those issues?
Well, no, just that, because the railing definitely is not good. I think because it's, well, the whole thing is not good. I guess Paige is right about the connection, the way it's connected to the, how that post kind of continues down over the face of the deck. If you were able to replace the vertical paneling that's on the porch now and replace it with the horizontal boards that are shown in the drawing, I think you'd have a better solution.
Just kind of make them shorter so they're not hanging over, is that what
Yeah,
you're
but I
saying?
think that whole, you're gonna have to, yeah, it's gonna be a big deal, but,
It's a mess.
You get nice connections with the band.
yeah,
Yes,
You just take that band.
that's a good idea.
yes.
Add it out. I don't think that's-
Yeah, but then.
Yeah, I don't think this, just no due respect, but we can only have, we have to have you sworn in and everything, but I think that what we're saying is, in order to get it to be anywhere near what your drawings are, you're gonna have to rip it out.
Yeah.
And start over. Like, I don't think there's a Band-Aid that's gonna fix it, because the posts are in the wrong spot, they're attached inappropriately. All the balustrades are basically have to be totally ripped out. And then that fascia, that's the thing that really gives me heartburn.
Yeah.
The thing that usually makes a really great finish to these kind of projecting elements that comes out is the crispness of how that horizontal aspect works. And you can see it in a ton of places all throughout the village, especially on porches. Somebody just rebuilt a porch really close to where I am, on the corner of Third and Hamlet. And that was the most distinct thing about it, is they did a historic treatment of the way that the horizontal bands worked with the proper relief. And it just makes the whole thing seem appropriate and historically accurate, even though we know it's new construction. It's not a mimicry, but it has the feeling of what that's about. So I would caution you to think about scab repairing anything on the back, because I just don't think it's gonna work. It's just really, to quote fellow Commissioner Brooke, it's a mess. So, Ben?
Well, I'm not completely in line because, I mean, what we don't know here is how the planes are lining up with the framing. It might very well be that the riveting could happen on the surface without even removing the T111 paneling there. But all this, to your point, Commissioner Sudi, all this might be a moot point, given that the number of posts that you show in the drawings is different than what happened in the field. So, and they're a different type than on the drawings than what you did in the field. And if it had been one or the other, it'd probably be a lot easier for the commissioner to say, let's just move on. But it's just so many things going on here. I do think that if those posts come out and you start to consider as an architect or a qualified builder, that band boards might cover up all that, and then you start getting your deck to overhang the band boards correctly, and the posts will have to be connected to the framing, and they are now, but with new ones, they're going to have to be connected and then finished off of this band board.
Okay.
So that, yeah, there's some things here that aren't working out, and there's going to be a shoe that goes around the post itself to keep water from going down in your framing. You just, this is where having the architect on board all the way through the process can really help these things out. And I think that you're going to, before you come back next time, you have to have a cross section through this deck area. And that's what's going to answer the questions for all of this. It's going to show how these boards are staggered out and covering up the framing, and the posts are appropriately meeting and still looking architecturally.
Yeah. I have no idea at this point if you add it on top of what's there, if it's going to stick out past the corner, the two corners of the building.
Well, it already, you've already got a post that's literally hanging in midair at the corner, which.
Yeah.
So I think this is not an appropriate fascia. It needs to match what's in the plan.
Yeah,
So
that needs to be taken.
I think the whole thing needs taken out. I just don't.
And then just quickly, the same thing needs to have cross section through the handrail itself, because what we're looking for is that the spindle is on center with a cap on top of the whole handrail. Right
That's
now,
what I had on the old drawing.
So follow the architect's instincts and drawings on this, and you should be okay. But that needs to be submitted for the next meeting.
So, yeah,
Okay, so what's next on this?
the private students.
I personally don't have a problem with this, because I think the way it's designed, I would have approved if they had submitted it. That's my take. What's yours?
See,
Ben, what do you think?
I'm not caught up yet. Where is this?
There it is.
Number 3,
The fence.
the other fence.
it's a properly designed.
This is not the top of my list, that's for sure.
Page.
Agreed.
Okay, so it sounds like generally we're all right with the fence. It sounds like there were some issues about modifying the tops of the posts just so they're not thinking above, but sounds like that one is not an issue. Okay. Number 4, oh no, that was number 4. Number 5, porch skirting. I think we kind of talked about that already. But just keep in mind when you're thinking about the entire, this is rear porch or front porch? Definitely for the rear, just consider what's below the bottom section as well, when you're looking at the entire thing. So it's kind of all part of it. But staff, was this front porch skirting?
This is from the applicant, but we can take a look at the front.
Oh, that's right.
Too, just to make sure, there's anything specific to the front porch, right?
It just says foundation dimensions do not match.
Boards that cover the foundation.
Yeah,
And they changed to be vertical as well,
yeah,
instead of the consistent horizontal side.
so all that vertical.
Oh, I see.
It's
Yeah.
pretty clear. on
14-111.
Weird, it happens on the porch.
Those need to be panels.
Yeah, so below the front porch is what we're talking about. Can we describe what would be the right thing?
Yeah, I would imagine removing and replacing with the matching horizontal siding. And staying consistent with the reveal of the foundation that's requested. Elsewhere along the house would be.
Anybody else have other thoughts, Paige or Brooke, you have anything else? Yeah.
I don't, back porch on page 15.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at too.
Oh, yeah, they're front porch.
I think it's probably it's more probable that there was a panel. It wasn't siding, like it was probably a rectangular panel with, probably vertical boards or maybe lattice, but in any case, it would have been a different kind of installed, constructed panel that is not the same as siding. Most likely. But what was on the drawing submission?
It said vertical or horizontal.
Horizontal siding.
Siding,
Vertical in the front and horizontal in the back.
because it was, and, the,
Yeah.
foundation blocks are visible in the drawings. So I think that's just a couple of boards, but the stair also look, maybe that's an unfinished stair at the back. The back.
Yeah, no, that's not finished. Yeah, it's just a.
Yeah, it's hard to say, Ben. We're looking at it right now as far as what that, at least the part we're looking at, looks like it's just blank.
Yeah, it's just blue.
Yeah, at the front.
Well, I mean, we could talk about what's historic, and you probably would have even seen posts travel all the way down from the, above the porch and seen them, or some sort of trim aspect of them below the porch deck. But because we got to decide whether we're staying in compliance with the original drawings or giving them advice about what to.
Right.
Yeah, I guess like in this, I say they need to stay in compliance and move on.
With the drawings,
Yes.
since they were approved.
Right.
It's kind of the general theme of all these.
Yeah.
Let's skip the casings for a minute, just because we already did the band between the first and second floor. I think we talked about how important that is to change that. So then I'll go back to the things that are left are the casings, the windows, and the light fixtures in the bay / dormer. So, okay, so let's go back to window casings. Staff, where are we on that?
So the casings, we scrolled to 15. So the drawings, and I think some of the previous maybe original casings had more of like a molding or design. And now they're kind of what you see more like typical construction, so flatter. So the photo on the right doesn't have the casing yet, but some of the other photos show the casing set up and installed. Which I guess you can see the lower windows, you can see what kind of casing has been installed.
Okay, let's go around and see what everybody thinks about this one, Shannon.
Well, I'm very strict on windows, unfortunately. So I think that they need to be reinstalled per plan.
You're talking about the window sizes and the casings?
Yes, both. It looks like you use the appropriate windows. Like it looks like the windows themselves are from the approved windows list. They were just installed incorrectly. Right, but it's the actual physical window.
Because there's just that, I believe, just that one window on the upper back of the addition that's bigger than what the drawings show. The others are in line with what were the
Yeah.
original openings, except for that window in the front gable up above.
So the gable
No.
needs,
That one didn't change size didn't.
I guess the
change the size
casing-
of it, it just has, I'm sorry,
it's the trim, so it's the trim on the outside of the house.
Right.
Right, I mean,
Yeah, but not the actual, there's two windows that don't match there's two in the garage and two in the house that don't match the original
Gotcha.
drawings. And we can change those.
yes,
Then the other, all of them have the trim issue,
and all of them will need retrimmed.
right?
Yes.
Not to keep picking on your contractor, but like, how is he thinking that he picked a different size window exactly above the window?
I just don't, I hope you're assuming.
The thing that's crazy is that there's a door out of that room
Suing?
to go to the deck. There's a door out though. So even if the window was too small for egress, there's a door to the deck, which is your
Yeah,
egress. So it didn't need to be bigger. Maybe there was a deal on it.
I mean, there had to be.
Or, I mean, I do get, you know, like when I did my windows, when you take your originals out, if the frames had been taken out before, which mine had, they have to rebuild the internal frames to fit the smaller windows. And maybe he just thought, I'm not gonna do that, and bought bigger windows.
But that's the addition. That was a brand new wall.
Oh, all right,
That is the addition. Only thing I can say with all the different people that I know, I can find people to buy stuff from her. So still, and you next month.
Okay. So, so you'll say you replace the four windows so they match correctly, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, so let's put that one to bed
The
then.
two in the garage had not been installed, so.
I'd just like to add something to that.
Sure, yeah, please.
I think that if they replace the casing of the head, that would be appropriate. I think you need to replace the verticals.
Just to give it that detail.
That would be a big
Yeah.
And I think actually the side trim is probably more appropriate than the drawings in this case. So I just think that if the applicant were willing to remedy the head of the window pairs, I guess we're talking about this. I'm not sure what the other pair you're talking about. Is it just below or?
So does that mean just kind of add the decorative thing across the top?
Yeah. I think.
This piece right here is going to be key to the way this rendered is appropriate historic.
So you're saying though, if they went through and did that on all the windows, then that would take care of it for you.
Yeah, although I see now in this particular case, we have a totally different window
Yeah.
size.
Yeah.
And that window should have at least matched this window. It seems like this window didn't even match that window. But if you could get them to match, I can get in line personally.
Paige, what do you think about that as a remedy for the trim case?
Yeah, I think the most important thing as far as the historic facade is just the proportions of the verticals to the head. So I do worry a little bit if we're trying to just add on top of the head if it's reaching that dark trim work and changed the upper facade. I was just trying to think if there was a way to even just minimize those vertical pieces to make the sill and the head read larger, just so it could kind of eliminate some of the chunkiness that is currently there. So I guess if it's by replacing the verticals to make them slower and so that the head and the sill reads more pronounced, or if it's adding to the head and the sill to make that read more pronounced, could work. It's just getting those proportions that are
I think the whole house
more
would have to be
approved.
most of it have to be resided. Side, it's,
Paige makes a very good point about this distance right here. And I see now that this band is not in line with original drawings. And so
Seems like the band's lower and the window's higher than.
I think it's close.
I
I
think-
think that band is too low.
the band's too low.
Mm-hmm. So it was like the eaves.
Yeah.
Because I was, on that addition, I was mimicking the way, the height of it on the front of the house.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah. Okay, so I guess that's all the advice. Do you have something else, Dan?
No, other than, I guess just because there's so much going on here, trying to salvage something in your comment about if the vertical casing members are taken off and replaced with smaller, then the siding's gonna be, need to be redone, most likely. Anyway, I think I would be okay in this instance because you're just going through so much with all this stuff. If you could take off the top casing, take it off, not add to it, but take it off and do it per the approved drawings. Even though the verticals are much heavier than what was proposed.
What about making the bottom window larger to match the top? That's
Because it's not.
that like salvage.
That's what we usually do.
The best size window, I think that's another too bad. Gotta go.
The larger one, or
Yeah, this one, this guy.
And I don't think it's as tall as what I had drawn.
so I
It's
need to
not.
replace it with this more skinnier window? Is that-
It's the same size as
But I-
it's on the side.
The siding's.
Right.
Just, yeah, right where it's the sides of the window, yeah.
Let's talk about the door.
Yeah, let's talk about the dormer. So on to the dormer. Staff, what do you have on?
So I'm replacing that one with the skinnier one, right? And then just doing the tops of them?
That's, I think, the direction that we're generally getting.
Yeah, if you have to measure, it might be thinner and taller.
Yeah, it's a totally different window.
Yeah.
I have drawn the same height, same size as the side windows
Yeah.
that were on the side, original ones.
Okay, so what about the dormer? What's going on for that staff?
Okay, so I've got this page. Let's see.
There it is, page 18.
Okay, so for this, the casing is kind of sticking out from underneath the dormer roof, and then the dormer pitch itself is a bit different. There's just like a couple of details here to add to the mismatch between what was approved and what was built.
Yeah. All right, this, I swear, is the last time I'm gonna say this.
Just kidding.
But in 20 years of doing this, or whatever, it's been 18 years, like, I've never seen a contractor blow a set of drawings on a historic house in the village this badly. I will stand by that. I mean, this is, like, it's bad. It's like, I
It's
can't believe
even-
how
it's
many.
built oddly into the roof
Yeah,
in a
it's
weird,
very strange.
like that, the water issues this would cause. I mean, just for that, you have to take it out.
I'm not sure to start on this, so what are you proposing to do?
Redo it.
Just take it out and
Yeah, just
redo
take it out and
Okay,
redo it.
I think that's it.
It's pretty bad.
I can recall the stormer on this application. This house first came.
I remember you being here.
And I was not fond of this dormer in this location to begin with, but be that as it may, it needs to be roof pitch that makes more sense to them. Maybe there is some other logic to the roof slopes that drove this solution, but it's forward facing, right, isn't it? Or is it rear?
It's rear.
Yeah.
The physical window casing is eaten by the.
That's the railing. We're taking off. The upper porch.
Right.
Well, do we move on since they said that?
Yeah, this is.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else is left that to talk about? The light fixtures, what's,
Before we move on to that, just because we're already on the photo.
Sure.
Towards the soffit.
yeah, what did you say you were gonna do with the soffit?
Make them up the rake. A lot of them hadn't been, you put some horizontal in. But it's not all done, so we're just gonna do the up the rake like the drawings show.
Okay, so you can
The
fix
raptor
that.
tails?
Okay, so they're gonna fix that.
Same on the garage. The garage was never completed as far as the soffit material goes, so it just has to be done.
Okay, so that is something that they're gonna do, staff, so I think we're good with that. And then what's next on that list? Go back and get anything else that was left. Light fixtures. What was the issue on light fixtures? People seem to
It's
think
not a
okay.
particular like issue specifically, it's just that they were installed without approvals, they want to get the commissioner's feedback on them as well.
Okay, thoughts on these, Shannon guy? Ben, you have something on light fixtures?
Well, if they're chandelier style from, they're not ideal. I'm not gonna make this a big issue, but if you have other uses for these in other properties and find a little smaller fixture that's much more humble, or aligned to gooseneck kind of style, should try to find it or try to install it instead.
Even almost the exact same thing, just smaller. Like they're just very large for.
Did you have thoughts on the lighting fixture?
No, I agree with the other comments, no, there.
Brooke, do you have comments?
Yeah, nothing great.
Okay, I have nothing. So, okay, so what else is left? The front bay window?
Yes.
Okay,
Boy.
so that's page 13.
Yeah, okay. So I don't know where to start on this one.
One, that they didn't take out the stained glass before starting work, and so it broke. The original
There were a
glass.
couple that were broke, but there is another one that's broke as well.
So I personally think that like this needs, put back to original. Because it, like, these details are really, hard to come by in our side of the short north. I think it's important to retain.
Is it underneath there? Do you think?
I think it's still there, yeah. I think he just capped it all with new siding.
I think we take the side.
I think he took it off.
It wouldn't be that.
I think it just needs redone. And also what is the architectural term for the top of it?
Roof.
The roof. Part of it. But like that's like too thick now, like something happened there. The whole thing. Yeah, the fascia. So, I mean, that's just such an important, like that is like the historic piece of your property. One of the historic, like defining characteristics.
If he did get rid of them, could I just have them remade to look the same? Is that what you would do?
Yeah, you just do it out of real wood.
Okay.
And your thoughts?
I might be in the minority, but I actually am more worried on the dormer than this. I think all things considered, if there are worse ways that could have been rebuilt, as long as they got this trim piece back in the bottom, it's flat instead of this T111, I could be happy. But I understand the sympathy to get it restored back to original. And if it's under there, you probably should do that.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve, what do you think about it?
Pieces that we have to.
Yeah, I would agree with the best outcome being that the wood trim is under there still, and you could rip this off and refinish that, but I would agree in matching. This seems like everything kind of below the windowsill, if it includes that trim is fine, but then everything between the fascia and that windowsill should be restored to match the original design.
Okay, does that include the little top part too? Is that what you're saying too, or just the?
I think the fascia might be
I think that's
okay.
okay.
I think the snow that's making it.
Oh,
Yeah.
you think it's snow?
Yeah.
White paint.
That's the.
Okay, you're
I
right.
think it's the same.
Yeah.
No, when I looked at it, it didn't look, I don't think it was rebuilt. I think it looks beefier because of the color.
Yeah,
With
We
color
can
and
fix
fixture,
it.
yeah.
I think you're right.
Wide angle.
Yeah.
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 I do think it's under there. It looks like it's boxed in.
I wouldn't, I wouldn't be surprised.
What do you think?
I think it should be restored.
Was there originally glass on the sides?
No. It's not that deep.
It didn't used to be that. Extra 6 inches on there now.
I mean, what's interesting about it is it is a addition. It's like a Victorian era addition to a really old home, which is pretty cool.
Okay, what else is left, staff? Do we have anything left?
Check the applicant's list.
So do you have any other questions for us? Luckily, we had a short agenda today, so we were able to take our time with this. I definitely am empathetic and sympathetic to what's going on here because like I said, this is very, very.
So I just have her
unusual.
redo drawings, then come to the next meeting and have them approved. Is that my next?
I mean,
step?
honestly, if you made everything look like the drawings that you already approved, if there's anything you want to change.
So
then-
if I go ahead and do it according to the drawings, I'm okay to continue on
Yeah.
with it. Okay, because I want to get this contractor started.
Yeah, I mean, you have.
Except the light, except you want a separate approval on the light fixtures.
I mean, I guess, staff, what's your recommendation on that?
Yeah, I would recommend like anything that's different, definitely come back, so. the
I don't think
commission
you
can
were
take a look and approve, and then maybe have just the specific remedies for things. I just want to make sure that like nothing goes wrong again, and the applicant doesn't have to go through this again for, and everyone's gonna proceed.
I don't think I had like fixtures on there to begin with.
Like you did.
Yeah, so that would just be a different.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we talked about some submittals that I thought might be appropriate, both, in terms of cross sections of the porch, so they can, bear out the detail, just that perhaps weren't there before. If they were there, then okay, it'd be just as easy to submit them as is. But I wonder if they were even there. And I think the same is true for cut sheet for the front door and transom and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, I think those would all, I agree with what you're saying. I think anything that would all come under the conditions of like changes. So if you want to keep the door, then you need to kind of submit a cut sheet of what the new door is. If you are changing anything that you don't see shows up in here. So basically you have railings that are on the back. And if you're gonna build them to look like what's on the back, fine. If you're gonna do anything differently, then we need a cross section and we need the whole thing. So, I mean, I think you just have to really go through those drawings with a critical eye to determine anything that you're not gonna do exactly like the drawings, and then just bring that back to us, either all at once or in pieces.
But something like keeping the vertical window trim and changing out the top piece be something you would like us to select.
That's a tough one. What do you think there?
I think so, just because we want to be clear, we don't want the applicant to like, have to redo something.
Okay. Well, maybe the front door, the window trim, and then a couple other, I took notes. There's small things, probably on 8.5 by 11 that we could submit.
Yeah, however you need to submit them. I mean, once you have an approved plan and you've been working on it, my understanding is you're allowed to conform to that plan without us doing anything.
Yeah.
If I'm not, am I right about that? Steph?
Yes, although the initial approval has expired, I think
Okay.
it was approved in 2020, so we just want to make sure everything is up to date.
Gotcha.
So how do we get it if it's expired, is there a process to?
And that counts even if they've been working on this with them.
Yes, so typically if, the work is taking a little bit longer, then you would apply for an extension. And we can do, another extension for another year, up to 2 times, as long as the approval is recent enough, which it is. Not from 4 years ago or something like that. For this particular application, since it involves a couple of different things, I don't know if the commission wants to split anything or have any particular conditions, or just have it all come back for next month, just to
You guys think?
keep it clean.
well, I think you've said it best. If they can comply with the original drawings, then they have a de facto approval to move forward and can split those things off. And then the things that they are finding too difficult to repair, replace, or comply with, then you just have to come back. And I think it's going to require resubmittal.
Does it make sense to renew their application?
I wondered about, can we do that sort of administratively right now, just to extend or is that part of the new application changes? Because there are going to be changes anyway.
Yeah, I think it might be best to keep it together, whether the commission wants to move forward with, partial approval now. I'll leave it up to you, but just because it has expired, you gotta keep the things together.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you would recommend.
It sounds like we're keeping almost all but a couple of items.
Right.
Yeah, can they just be an administrative, like going through, going back to
Yes.
like the trim, the front door, the handrail, but I don't think you need to change the handrail.
I think the trim probably should come back, since it is going to, it sounds like it's gonna differ a little bit from the original drawings.
And then the lights. So.
Right. But anything that stays the same, basically, I mean, you basically just have to build it back. That's just drawing.
Seems like we're taking it back to where it was.
And the commission, I'm sorry, I may have missed it. Is the commission okay with the lights, or were you wanting the applicant to come back with the light fixtures?
I okay with this position.
But they never submitted light fixtures before, right?
No, that's correct. So these are installed.
I think that the applicant can do better. So I think you should do a lighting submission.
Lots of it.
Agreed.
So we'll apply for an extension. And
That's a new application, I understand.
Yeah,
The
that's
lighting fixtures would be part of the new app.
the lighting fixtures. Yeah, everything else. That's not changing. Okay, well, that was a lot of stuff. Any other thoughts or comments by commissioners? Instead of covering one way to go through that. Okay, are you okay with us tabling this application then?
Yeah.
Or continue?
I don't know what the procedure is.
So we'll continue until the next meeting, and then
Okay.
in between now and that time, you can work with staff to understand what you need to do to submit to renew the existing application
Okay.
and to make any changes, and whether or not, or how you can begin to proceed with the renewed application, you know, despite the pending changes you're gonna make.
Okay. That's good.
So that's appropriate. We do a continuation on the expired.
I think we do a continuation on considering whether to approve these changes.
All right. I move the basis that we continue this case.
Sounds good. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, carries. Thank you very much. I'm sorry you're going through all this stuff. We really appreciate it. Okay. So where are we here? We are on, so we're on Brickell Street. IV 2204-00617 Brickell. I just want to reconfirm, you guys haven't built the entire thing. No, we have not built it. Just want to make sure. That's going to be very helpful. Okay, can you each raise your right hand, state your name for the record?
Rob Wood. Patrick Livingston.
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this evening?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so let's go with staff and we'll go back to you.
Okay, so this application was previously reviewed as a conceptual application at the March meeting. The application is proposing to construct a second-story deck at the west elevation of the building, to modify an existing window into a door, and to install a concrete slab at grade, a concrete retaining wall, dumpster, and horizontal steel framed wood fencing with a gate, and to replace the glass of the first-story northerly window, also at the west elevation, with temporary glass. So the application includes proposed alterations to accommodate a cigar social club. At the March 29th business meeting, the commission noted the following: that they appreciate the removal of the proposed large HVAC piping from the exterior. Appreciate the railing and the bridge have been pushed back, and some commissioners noted that they are okay with the railing. Some commissioners expressed concern about the scale of the post or frame of the deck, noting that these appear smaller than the drag pipe shown in the drawings, but weren't sure if this was just out of scale in the drawings. Commissioners wanted to be sure that these were structurally feasible and safe, and would like to be more complimentary to what's already present. And the commission asked that the measurements be included in the drawings, noting that sizing was not noted in the drawings. The commissioners expressed concern if the garbage recycling truck could access the receptacles, and noted the area proposed for concrete and piers on level, and asked how the water will drain away from the buildings, including the neighbor, and how this will interact with the neighbor's retaining wall. The commission noted that they wanted to see detail as in where the curb cut would be and how wide, and noted that a finish color for the fencing would need to be proposed, whether that be paint or fake stain. The applicant has submitted further drawings indicating that the fence will be painted, and they have noted to staff there's a possible plan to work with existing tenants, combining and teaming up for trash pickup. Here, so the doors and transoms in the drawings appear to be like a single unit. Doors and transoms were historically installed as separate units rather than like a single one unit. And the transom as proposed does appear to be oversized, so staff is recommending that the door and transom be installed as a separate unit and the transom size be scaled down. Staff recommends approval of application IV 2204-006 with the condition that the proposed site detail and confirmation of how the drainage will be directed away from all buildings be provided, and that the proposed door and transom be separate units and the transom size proportionally. And the basis for the staff recommendation are the standards for alteration, numbers 1, 2, 5, 10, and 12. Standards for site improvements, letters A and D, and the dumpster area, letters A and C. Turn it over to the commission.
Okay, great.
I think there is an option that we did too. David mentioned about the columns being bigger. So the architects, obviously, they have engineers that already said structurally it's fine with the size, the original sign, but there is a drawing. And I also believe he put notes on there for the curb going directly to the alley as far as the water runoff. And he said he put notes on there as well for that. I know there's another drawing that I submitted.
Can someone point me to the newest drawing? I'm very
The
confused.
newest drawings are the ones at the very top of the application, and so then staff added like a divider title, and then any previous drawings have like a little title on it that'll say previous or something like that in red on the drawings themselves. So these first couple of pages, these are all the most recent submitted drawings.
Okay, anything else before we go around?
We did submit, and I don't know, the materials too. I'm not sure if that was just the business meeting but we matched the one handrail that you had told us.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and we pulled it back, I think, 4 or 5 feet. The trash is actually not a dumpster. Rob looked into it. I believe there was boring, and it's actual ones you push out or whatever. I think David was concerned about.
I just remembered the applicant had brought out physical materials, and I have them up in my office desk, so I might go and run and get them so that everyone can see them.
Okay.
And so the applicant.
The fence was pre-primed smooth cedar. It was the same material wrapping it that the deck is going to be built out of, which is made by Suburban Steel, which would just be powder coated.
Just real quickly to clarify, so the tempered glass, I assume is that window on the staircase?
Yeah, because you're walking by it, yeah.
But it'll look the same.
Yeah, correct, correct.
Okay.
I think their intent with the, I know typically residential, you do your transom, 2 separate units. They were trying to match the storefront that was currently on the front of the building. So I think that was.
Would you be okay with doing that?
Oh, yeah, 100%, but I think that's what they were trying to do.
Okay, so
Is match what was currently there.
and okay, sounds good. All right, let's go around and hear what thoughts are, Brooke.
I think I'm good with this.
Do you like the one with the smaller columns or bigger? That's what I.
Bigger columns is proportional.
Okay. Agreed. I just went.
Yeah, I agree with staff's comments as well as Brooke on the larger columns. I appreciate you guys bringing that vertical back away from the front facade. And then just wanted to confirm again that all that mechanical equipment is no longer.
Correct, but the existing equipment that's there will be back.
Okay.
Same spot, same location. It's air conditioners, but we're putting all the equipment inside now.
So you're not adding any new.
Correct. Outside, yes, you still have your gas meters, you still have your gas lines, but we're just changing out those 2 air conditioners, but all the equipment's going back inside where it was before.
Yeah, and that takes place, is that behind where the, sort of this wall screening is for this dumpster, or where does that? Sit?
Yes, correct.
Okay,
You're not gonna see it actually, true.
that's right. Paige, I'm sorry, do you have anything else?
No, approve of the railing and everything, so.
Thank you.
That's it.
A couple quick questions. So the deck is exposed from beneath as well? You see the cedar from beneath?
No, there's no cedar on the deck. The cedar was for the fence.
Just for the fence. I thought you said it matched the.
No, I'm sorry. No, the actual, they'll put a cap around the fence out of metal. That's
So
the
are these
idea.
posts round, I-beam, or square, or what?
Say that again.
These posts that we're talking about, fatter or skinnier?
They're square. They made it bigger. The originals, I think, were 4 inch and now they're 5 and something. There's 2 pictures of them.
Did you ever consider a cast iron post out of a catalog?
No, I'm not an architect. I'm a contractor and these architects are out of Minneapolis. So I typically don't come to these meetings. So I'm just going based on what they chose. And also we got recommendations from the commission of a certain one to match.
I've been out of the loop, so I apologize for the
No,
additional
no
questions.
problem.
I would say that I approve of this, I support the application as submitted. I understand staff's concern for the transom window and would support that if that seems okay to you. That seems great to me. That if for any reason you'd want to reconsider some sort of historic post and or a roof over this, I'm largely supportive of this idea.
Okay, we thought about a roof, but I don't know if we thought that was a good idea, but it could be something later, I guess. So.
Other than the transom.
Yeah, so I support changing that transom as well. It sounds like you've agreed to do that. I support this as well. Just a couple things I wanted to know. One is I do think that, clearly this is an additional element on the side of the historic structure. It is at least it's in the spirit and I think in the design of the way that this has occurred in the past on historic structures, which is important to me, and will be, I think, visually appealing as it is not a hugely visible spot, but relatively visible, certainly anybody coming down that alley. So that was certainly important to all of us. The other thing I want to note is, I'm pretty reluctant typically in changing these windows to a larger opening in a historic structure. I appreciate that you kept it as narrow as you can, and also understand that it is what I think is a fairly minor alteration in order to allow, a new kind of renewed use for this building. If it was much grander and you were, significantly altering larger portions of the walls, or if it was on the front of it rather than the side, I think I'd have a lot more heartburn. But it's in a reasonable location, and I definitely was concerned about those big vent units and HVAC portions outside, and I really do appreciate you guys taking those off. I think it's doing a lot for the way this whole thing works. And also the screening on the base. It's not a bad spot right now to walk past, but it certainly isn't super appealing.
Sure.
I think this will make it more appealing, and I think you'll get a nice new use out of it while still maintaining the historical integrity of the building. So based on all that, we appreciate all the hard work you've done, and I'm in support. Any other comments from commissioners? Okay, I'd entertain a motion specifying that post size, I guess. Yeah.
I'll move to approve IB 22-04-006 with the stipulation that the transom window on the second floor and the new opening be replaced to staff's recommendation, and that the posts that the commission favors the larger post size versus the smaller that's been discussed here tonight. And I just want to go on record as being in support of everything the chairman just said as the reason why this is appropriate.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, opposed and abstentions. All right, great. Thanks.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
the
much.
changes. What's the timeline?
Oh, to do that?
Yeah.
Depends on Suburban Steel, so we're a little bit out. So we're hoping to get started on the inside pretty quick.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Okay, now we're on to conceptual. Do we have anything after this tonight's staff?
No, this is the last application.
Okay, well, then we've reserved the last 2.5 hours of the meeting. Great. It is application for the record, IV 22-04-007-936 North Street. If you will raise your right hand and state your name for the record.
Madison Owens.
And you promise to tell the truth to the best of your ability in your testimony this afternoon.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, go over to staff and go back to you.
Okay, this is a conceptual application proposing this report finds seeking conceptual feedback for placing art on the exterior of 946 North 4th Street, where vinyl signage is currently present on the south elevation. And then just to add to that, the Alliance is also seeking clarification on a location that was last brought up for conceptual review at the March meeting, and that's 1031 North 4th Street. So the 946 North 4th Street, that property consists of a contributing 2-story brick commercial building constructed sometime between 1922 and 1951. At the March 29th business meeting, the commission noted the following: that the existing signage had been added due to difficulty of seeing signage on North Front Street, but noted that there is now signage present on the awning. The commissioners noted that the material should be vinyl, canvas, or other reversible material to avoid altering the historic brick. And the commissioners noted that any art should avoid incorporating the windows and should be set back from the corner of the building. Now, in regard to 1031 North 4th Street, that clarification, at the business meeting, the commissioners noted that unpainted historic brick should avoid being painted, and again suggested vinyl, canvas, or other reversible material. Some commissioners did express confusion regarding the location, just noting that the art will not be very visible due to fencing and trees at that 1031 North location. So this is a conceptual application, and the commissioner should offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review at a future IBC meeting. Staff analysis is based on the Italian Village guidelines for exterior painting, noting that surfaces that have never been painted, such as lintels, sills, foundation materials, and brick surfaces, should not be painted. That murals are reviewed on an individual basis based on size, location, content, and appropriateness for the area in which they are located. That in the absence of guidelines specific to 4th Street and 5th Avenue to help interpret city code, the Short North design guidelines have served to inform reviews for the corridor of North 4th Street and 5th Avenue. And the Short North design guidelines note that murals should not be placed on unpainted brick or stone walls of historic or contributing buildings, except for party walls, and that murals should not cover or obscure architectural elements such as windows, doors, trims, cornices, or other such features, as well as the city code standards for alterations, specifically numbers 2, 5, 9, 10, and 12. And back over to the commission.
Okay, great. Just real quickly, what year did you say this? How old is this gourmet pizza building? It's 9.
It is built sometime between the early 20s and the early 50s.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
So for this 936 location, the owner wants to put a mural inside the building. There's currently the gourmet pizza logo there, which I believe is vinyl. We will always advocate for a permanent mural, paint on a wall, but recognizing that it is historic brick. So before getting into putting a call for an artist and getting design and all of that, we'd just like to know what the commission will approve so we can avoid all of that. So we're looking really for some specific clarification on, can we put paint on it? If not, what can we put on it? Can we use the whole space, only a portion of it? That kind of stuff.
Okay. Good. Let's see what everybody thinks. What do you think?
I don't know. I think I call this brick like super historic. Like I bet this building looks like it was built in the 40s. Whatever the rest, I'm open to painting it, but if the rest of the commission is not, then.
I'm mostly falling in line with Shannon's comments. I really don't. First of all, I just wanted to say that in a blanket statement that we're doing murals that, to me, the paint stipulation on historic buildings is a little dogmatic. But I think that we should be striving for a little more funk and art in our community. And so therefore would support paint probably, but I understand how we might want to stipulate that there should be some support from the SNA to help maintain that mural once it's put up with paint. But backing off of that, I think this is an appropriate place for a mural. It's way more appropriate than putting up a logo. And even if a struggling business owner felt a need to put up some sort of identity, I think it's some sort of mural, and that it sneaks in some sort of legacy of its own business in there. I could even get behind that as long as it's mostly perceived as art.
Yeah, I mean, I'm under the impression that the logo would come off and it would be like a mural, not necessarily an advertisement.
So I am mostly in support of most of what you can conceive. I think it can go from edge to edge. It can, top to bottom. It can be ripped vinyl. It can potentially be paint if there's a little bit of backing from the SNA.
Paige.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as far as the allowing paint. One thing to add, I guess, I think it could be beneficial to hold off the mural from the edge of the front facade, just so you don't get maybe an odd corner condition and disrupt that front facade. So maybe it could be held off the same distance that head of the window is held off from the roof portion, just to let the front facade breathe a little bit. But other than that.
I'm in agreement with both Commissioner Goodman and Commissioner Page. And that, I think that was a really good comment to keep it off of the edge, front edge of the corner of the building. It would probably read true for the backside as well. But yes, I think it's appropriate. And as far as painting the brick, if I will ride along on this one with the rest of the commissioners, but it's fine.
I'm sorry.
That's all.
So, I don't know what the timing would be like on the staff. May not matter much for this particular one. But I think we're getting to this kind of strange point with art requests in the village where I think there's sentiment that isn't necessarily aligned with the recommendations we're always getting. And that is, I think you're doing your job absolutely appropriately. And I also understand why the commission is having some other considerations. So if there's a way, and I don't know who needs to be in the room, but some way that we could have a workshop discussion, a business meeting or whatever, about how we think it's appropriate to interpret the guidelines with regard to years of buildings, locations of buildings, materials, side versus front versus rear, like all this stuff. I think it would be really helpful that way we're not. Well, I still think a case by case basis is what it's going to be, what it comes down to. But I feel like we're also flying in the dark other than one single standard, that's don't paint brick. And I think the sense is there's more nuance there. So if we could somehow initiate that discussion with whomever you think is appropriate, that'd be awesome.
Yes, we can. I wonder, the staff opinion is that, once you paint brick, that's a permanent alteration, and certainly support, adding art and funkiness. And I think the staff opinion is that we can do this in a way without permanently altering historic brick in the building. We do consider historic and contributing, and it's just following the city code of, not altering historic material, and the brick would be part of that historic material. We could absolutely, have that discussion and have a workshop, not just like you mentioned, Jason.
Yeah, that would be great. And, there may be, and I think there's a whole bunch of solutions. I think painting on the side of the building is certainly, one that is very successful with regard to the art itself. I don't know if it's successful with regard to the preservation of the building, but there are other ways you could do. You could mount panels on buildings in ways that could be removed. There's certainly vinyl. There are different types of things besides paint. So I'm open to, I like everything everybody up here is saying, and I agree with you. I don't feel a particular attachment to this building with regard to historic characteristics. But on the other hand, I have a hard time necessarily distinguishing because of it's just on this side of this one decade or on the other side of a decade, or it's, I think we're getting, I don't want it to get to that where we're just kind of arbitrarily guessing based on what we feel like.
Contributing versus contributing.
That's true. That one, I at least feel like I have a little more basis of things to guess on. So, but any other thoughts up here?
Yeah, I didn't realize that this image was in the package.
The second.
That's the second one, yeah.
Oh, okay, so we're not talking about.
No, that's, yeah. Get to that next.
So anyway, other than that, any other thoughts on this particular one?
Well, just to add to some of the criteria that I'm thinking about, it's on a non-primary, it's on a secondary elevation. That would be one of those things I think we should add to the workshop for new guidelines. Maybe on this next one.
Okay, let's talk about this next one.
Do you mind if I ask a quick
Yeah,
question
sure.
on this one? So just for clarification, so I understand, if we were to submit an application with like an actual design and an artist for paint, some of you guys would be.
Sounds like some people are actually.
The problem is that you don't have everyone here.
Yeah.
So
I guess I'm looking for what do you guys think would be the best suggestion if we were trying to get paint on it? We're obviously going to do whatever it is that we are allowed to do, but
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean-
honestly, I think what we heard today.
This is the majority of the commission, so. Yes, to paint, probably. I would say you could
Statistically.
90 statistically,
Your odds are good. You have
yes.
10.
Okay, great. Okay, that was it.
Let's talk about the other one. This is like in the parking lot of seven or
Yeah.
of Fox and Snow, right?
So this is one that we brought to the previous conceptual meeting. And there was just some miscommunication on what we thought we could do versus what the minutes said. And so I think it was brought up again at the business meeting. And so we just wanted to bring it back up for clarification from some more specific guidelines about what we'd be able to do here. We're actually only interested in the brick part, not the little black section at the end. So well, again, what we're looking for is, are we allowed to use paint? Are we allowed to cover the entire area? Only a portion of it? That kind of thing.
Mine, I had said, I thought paint was appropriate everywhere because of its location. Do whatever you want.
I mean, this kind of gets back into this ambiguity for me. Like, this feels like a much more historic brick wall to me.
But I'm okay with, I guess, but I'm personally okay with painting super historic brick walls if they're not on the front side when it's art. So like, take that for what it's worth. My personal opinion goes against what staff is saying. And some of that is because, we know that buildings used to be painted.
Not the historic brick for this. This was never painted.
No, buildings generally used to be painted with artful advertisements and things like that.
Party walls, but just in particular locations.
Right, and I think one of this type of location
Well, I don't think this ever would have been painted because it
would be too far, yeah. The building that used to be that was not done.
very bad
But-
advertising location.
I do think that one of the discussion points going forward is that maybe this much coverage, this big of a wall, in contrast to what I just said a little bit ago, that maybe there needs to be some honor played to how much coverage. So in other words, the Adam Gourlay kind of art may, or even the art on the Bollinger Tower may not be the most appropriate in this kind of building, but a advertisement that is talking about sign painting, a brush and allow some brick to show through, but not painting a whole plane of paint. So you might have line work and text work and so forth that allows some of the brick to breathe. This is all, I'm saying this out loud as a way to add it to the bullet point of ways to think about more coverage for a wall that's larger like this, or even like the one we saw earlier.
Yeah, I think the percentage of coverage is a really good idea for the brick. And I think this location specifically, as it most likely was a party wall, was on the scene, this building was next to it, I am okay with the painting.
What do you think?
I'm in agreement, and I do think the amount of coverage is probably very important, not only for the building, but for the artwork that's going there, because if the brick isn't allowed to breathe, it could affect the longevity of the mural.
Does it matter to you guys if it's, say 50% or something like that? Cutting the wall in half and could literally cover the entire 50%, or having a design that's more across the entire thing, but not completely covered, if that makes sense. Like if you have
Across the entire.
yeah, but overall, it would be roughly 50% of the brick. Is there a preference on?
That's what my preference
Okay,
is.
gotcha.
I mean, because when you get to just a panel of it,
Mhm.
why don't you then just put vinyl on it?
Yeah.
Right.
What's the point at that point?
Mhm.
Like, if you're gonna do something artful, you need to use
Yeah.
the space.
I would agree with that.
But I do think this conversation about the actual specifications is kind of a live conversation, so
Mhm.
we may statistically move around on it.
Yes.
So is it kind of the same as the previous one if we were to submit an application for paint? Is there a good percentage that I could maybe ballpark figure?
I mean, we are making this up. So, no, I'm not comfortable saying that. No, I mean, this is a conceptual, so we can
Yeah.
say whatever we want.
I get it.
But I mean, I think we're making things up. What I'm advocating is that we have the opportunity, and yeah, I understand you want these to move forward quickly, but there's also, I mean, I haven't ever heard of a mural emergency. Maybe there is one. And so, I would prefer that we get some kind of understanding of how we're gonna grade these going forward, rather than having the classic, hey, you guys just did that one 2 years ago, and why can't we do 730 more like it, I think that's gonna be the case, but I do think we're gonna have, well, I mean, we already have had a lot of.
And we just actually approved one of them today, so it's not like you're not getting any start.
Yeah.
Right, so, yeah, I mean, I think I personally, I would be more likely to vote no on things before we have clarification,
Mhm.
because I don't have clarification, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
Other people may feel differently, that's fine. But I feel like we're gonna, if we go further, I feel that this isn't nearly as bad as when we were in the crazy parking variance game, which thankfully we're out of now, but it feels a little bit like that, where every instance we could make up a reason why it should or shouldn't happen. And I prefer that that wasn't the case for me. So.
If both of these locations were vinyl or something that wasn't paint, could they potentially be approved if we were?
You've already been doing that.
Yeah. Can almost do that.
And if you, or the artists that you're looking at, more interested in paint, then I think if you just share with them that we have part of our mandate to also preserve the building. So it's not just a blank canvas that they traditionally think about. They got to think about how that it's a community thing, and there are other factors such as historic preservation at play. So perhaps if they just knew that, it would impact the way they're thinking about your proposal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't have any artists or designs ready yet.
I also think you should be looking, I think we talked about this last month, at more sculptural and structural art,
Fair point.
rather than blanking the neighborhood with murals. At some point, you will come back to us and we will have approved 6 murals in 3 months, and you're gonna have diminishing returns most likely, because
I say that one other thing I will mention, this is totally anecdotal, no, just cheesing it up here for the last couple of minutes where you end this meeting. What Fifth Street was diverted the other day because of a construction issue going across into the new stuff. And they routed us all down the alley, which I think many of us have walked down plenty of times. That's behind Flower Child, that kind of stuff. And as you get to the very end of that, of course, there's this big blank, what used to be blank wall of concrete block, which now has a lot of the jellyfish on it, plus some other just regular graffiti. But it made me start to think about, yes, undoubtedly, 4th Street, the main corridors are where most people experience Italian Village. But I think one of the efforts to make it unusual and fun and weird is to have things that people discover, like the Mona Lisa was a discovery for people when the short order first started. It wasn't a main drag, and people would say, hey, you got to go back there and check this out. It's really cool. And then people would go there. And I think we should think about walls that are awesome and are junk walls in weird places, but you think the Casings a junk place. But if we made a junk wall into a cool thing, then it would no longer be a junk wall or a junk place. So I would encourage that. And I would say, for me, yeah, it's cool, but I would rather than have 4th Street be an art gallery, I'd rather have the neighborhood have a lot of weird art throughout it. So
I
that's
would partly agree with that. In fact, this should not be decorating, this should be placemaking.
Yeah,
correct. Yeah.
absolutely.
And to that point, it's more and more pedestrian friendly rather than car focused. So that goes a lot.
Yeah.
Comments.
okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks for hard work on the neighborhood, though. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
It sounds like we don't have anything else, right? Anything else you wanted to give us the business on, staff?
No, I think any additional business, that was our final application. Or newer old business.
No, I think we're good. Anybody else have anything?
Move to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thanks.